Aloha nerds and welcome back to TheSalawag's Why It's Great Gut Reaction, where I watch things and react from the gut. Because A Quiet Place Day 1 is what I watched today. And this is one of those beautiful movies that makes me want to be a filmmaker, makes me appreciate movies, makes me go home happy that I went out and saw a movie. I was really, spoiler-free reaction up front. I loved A Quiet Place Day 1. In my heart, it's, at least at the moment, my gut feeling is that this is my favorite of the three films. I was not a big fan of A Quiet Place Part 2, although it was nice to see Cillian Murphy. I think the biggest problem with that movie is it doesn't pick up where it left off as much as it kind of retreads the first movie. I would much have rather had, if we were going to do part 2, than have the girls kicking ass, finding all the monsters and killing them. You know what I mean? I think that, much more of a, I don't care if it would be like Resident Evil Angelina Jolie. I just, come on, you found the solution in the end of the first movie, so start using it. But when it comes to A Quiet Place Day 1, this is really, especially with the beginning of A Quiet Place Part 2, this is what I wanted, what I realized afterward I really wanted from A Quiet Place Part 2. Is like, if you're going to go backward, go backward. Let's see that journey. And we get that. And it's hard not to spoil. I love spoiling movies. I can't help it. But the adventure, I mean, it is day one. I'll say the movie lives up to the title. It's really more like the first couple days, but it lives up to the title of being, this is the beginning of this post-apocalyptic adventure. And Lupita Nyong'o leads this cast, and it's really it's an intimate cast. She has one friend. She has a couple friends, but one friend becomes a new friend throughout this experience, played by Joseph Quinn. They spend the majority of the movie together trying to survive. And I really love the difference in their characters, is that Lupita Nyong'o has a secret. It's a secret to the audience, although it's not that big of a secret when you see the beginning of the movie. And I don't even want to spoil that. I don't want to spoil where she begins. But it is revealed to her and Joseph Quinn's character later on in the film what her situation is. And this is what a great main character role, and Lupita Nyong'o is so perfect for it. I think the last time I saw her as a main character was Us. If she's done other movies, I've missed them, but I think while I loved Us, I love her in this film because she's a character who's a bit rough around the edges at first. You could say unlikable, but you know that there's a reason for it when you see her in the beginning. And she has this adorable cat. I love the cat. This cat survives way too long in this film, but I don't care because I'm a dog person, but recent circumstances have taught me to learn to love cats, and so I really love this cat in this movie. Writer-director Michael Sarnofsky. I haven't seen Pig or your other work, but I'll definitely check it out at some point. It's definitely on the list now. I just love the adventure of, there are some discoveries that were established in the first movie, but most importantly, this movie is really just about these two characters and how they're dealing with this situation emotionally. I think that's what every movie should be about, is really the emotional trajectory of the story, of the character, where they're going, how they conflict with each other and why. And I think just to give a mini spoiler, we have Lupita Nyong'o, who's got some kind of problem, who's got a situation that's over her head, that's making her this kind of miserable person at the start of the movie. And on the other hand, we have her new friend, a fellow survivor of the arrival of these monstrous aliens that can hear every noise, And on his side, he seems a little bit younger, not so much younger, but a little bit younger than her. And really, he's the side character, he's the male, and he's the one who has this absolute terror. You know, whatever hangs over Lupita Nyong'o's head, it kind of gives her the strength, and plus the way the movie rolls out in the beginning, kind of gives her the strength to push forward in this survival journey. But what's beautiful when just meeting Joseph Quinn's character, you see that he has something unspoken. But when you meet him, again, how you meet these characters is hugely indicative of what they're going through, why they're acting the way they act. And it's amazing to see, here's the strong female lead. But, you could flip this, and this would normally be the male in the lead, and the female in the side part. Where you see the guy has a valid reason to just he has these kind of panic attack moments. And let me tell you, this movie is just full of tension. I mean, you do get a couple minutes in the beginning to catch your breath, but this movie is just non-stop tension. So many great sequences. I noticed Michael Bay's name in the credits as well, and dang, if he lent his name or money to this, then thank you, Michael Bay. I'm so just down for the epic scale and scope that this movie delivers. But obviously, what I always respond to up front is the character stuff. Is the story working for me? And is there a story? Is there some kind of journey that the characters are going on that's emotional or relatable? The character does not have to change necessarily, but are they being challenged to change? And is there a reason for them not to change? But I think what's beautiful about this movie is, these characters are enduring something, and by story's end, they do affect each other very deeply, even though they can't speak to each other very much. What little bits they tell about themselves are the most important things to them, and how this movie comes to its conclusion is so solid. Oh, and Djaimon Hansou appears. He's in the trailers, so it's not a spoiler. He's not in the movie a lot. He's in the movie a good amount. It's really great seeing. I'm hoping A Quiet Place, the next one, is about his journey. I know the ending probably may not make it seem like he has a big journey. I don't want to spoil it, but I feel like there's a lot of room to have him have his own journey across his own movie. Because I love Djaimon Hansou ever since I saw him in The Island way back in the early 2000s. The Island, Blood Diamond. I mean, he was just showing up in so much stuff in the early 2000s, and he was in not Jumper. That was Sam Jackson. Sorry, racism. But Djaimon Hansou is he's one of those actors who's just got that thing. He's got that emotional resonance that captures you, a presence that captures you, and he can be tough or he can be tender. And I like that in a movie like A Quiet Place, it forces everyone to be their most tender, soft selves, because they have to be. If you're going to be a loud, ruckus person, you're going to be the first one dead by these monsters. And so, I don't know. It's hard to say things without spoiling it, but I'll just say that the journeys we go on through with these characters, I was very satisfied when I reached the end of the movie. I just thought, I loved A Quiet Place day one. It's my favorite of the three. I'll put it above the first one. Sorry, John Krasinski. I think while the first one is a beautiful story, beautiful intimate story about a family, I think every time I watch it with people, it feels like it could be a shorter and shorter movie. It's kind of like a short film exploded out to be a feature film. Whereas I feel like this movie feels for sure like it had to be a feature film. There's no way you could tell the story other than with this scope. But not only that, I think I'm a city guy. So even though I'm not from New York, I'm from San Francisco. And so I think personally, I really related to how are you going to survive getting through a city. That's why I loved Cloverfield as well, Spider-Man. I really relate to these characters who are just normal people in a super urban environment where you have this sort of spectacular situation you have to get through. And there's some 9/11 imagery. Um, I don't know if it's necessary, but it's definitely. I feel more like I don't know if that out of respect for New York or love for New York or whatever, but certainly it's trying to evoke those feelings. Although I'd say literal monster attacking aliens is a little bit different than terrorists who are still technically human beings. And you know what I mean? I don't know. I think it's the cross associations. I don't know. Plus, we already got a lot of that with with Man of Steel. I think Man of Steel has killed my personal drive for seeing 9/11 imagery resurface in movies. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. A Quiet Place Day One, definitely my favorite of the three. So spoiler free, loved it. Please go see A Quiet Place Day One. Lupita Nyong'o is so good. Like I said, when we reach the end of this movie, I am just like, what a good role. What a great role. Because I wasn't sure where they would go with the elements they introduced about her character. And again, when they reached that final shot of the movie, I was like, wow, you got me. You got me. You know what I mean? I think, well, I can't say much more than that. So, spoiler free, loved it. Go check out A Quiet Place Day One. Thank you very much for watching. Okay, now it's time for spoilers. Have all the people who have not seen this movie left the room? It's just us. Okay. God damn, they killed her at the end of this movie. Ah! I told you to be spoilers. You shouldn't have listened. Right up front. Right up front. I love that we're starting off. This movie starts off with Lupita Nyong'o in a hospice care. She's the only young person amongst a bunch of old people who you assume these people are basically on their way out the door. So, I mean, I didn't fully 100% grasp it, but there's a clear line at a certain point where they're saying, where her nurse is taking everyone out to see a show and invites her to go, and he says, it's only a half an hour drive, and she says, I could be dead in a half an hour. And that really says everything you need to know about her, kind of why she's miserable. She knows that she's dying. That's wow. And this is the first friend, of course. Although she does not call him a friend at the beginning, she's so cold-hearted at the beginning of this movie. And what I think is it's really touching is that, you know, everything being as traumatic as it is, seeing the meteorites come down from a direct perspective in this movie, and then again the 9/11 aspect is there. I had seen a review from someone. I love her reviews. A reviewer had said she didn't like how people already knew about the sound when she wakes up. But that's fine. I just feel like, look, this is the third movie. We know, okay? You know what I mean? I think it would have been cool to have some kind of scene where people realize, oh shit, they're triggered by sound. But I think, better to just get to it, because this movie is not really about the mechanics of people figuring things out. And then I think, honestly, people would figure it out pretty quickly. Maybe not in the first hour, but maybe across the first 6 hours. Definitely by the end of the first day or the end of the second day, people would realize, holy shit, every time I make a sound, these things move and get people. Okay, that's kind of clear what's going on. Obviously, the first 5 to 6 hours, the first 3 to 6 hours, probably a lot of people figuring it out. But I think I'm fine with that. I don't think that's the most important thing. That these are the rules of our movie, and just here you go. To me, the most important thing is the character journey across the movie going to be worth the time that I paid the ticket for? And I think it was. Because I'm sitting there, even with her being in hospice, going, "What's wrong with her? I don't understand. I don't get it." By the time we lose the nurse, he was a great actor. I'm sorry, I just forgot his name. I was just looking at it. But by the time we lose him, after so much destruction, we see Lupita Nyong'o. She's getting a little more isolated, but she's also, her heart is breaking. She's kind of like realizing that she is not appreciating things in her life in a kind of way. But when we get to Joseph Quinn and he's introduced, like, he almost drowned. It seemed like whatever had happened, the cat, Lupita Nyong'o's cat, finds him. It seems that whatever happened, he found himself in the subway. The water got flooded, and he was drowning. And you see in his face, like, what has happened to him has really shaken him. He is just as shaken as all the other people on the street. But there's something in his eyes, like this is perhaps his first time dealing with a traumatic situation. And it's when they establish later that he's kind of having a panic attack when Lupita Nyong'o and Joseph Quinn are walking around. I really love that. I really love that here we have the side character who's the man, and he's actually the most afraid, and she needs to calm him down because A, she already knows she's going to die, and B, she's on a mission. She's what she wants to do is more important than her being afraid. And again, she knows she's dying, so she's not worried about that. And I thought that was such a beautiful touch. I think that's such a human thing. I think it seems that the world has kind of gone back to the 80s with expectations between men and women, and I don't know. I know men are supposed to be the tough, cold ones. I've always been a sensitive guy, and I've gotten a little bit tougher over the years, for sure. But I think it's just such a beautiful thing that even though, yeah, Joseph Quinn is a man and he is having these panic attacks, I think it's such a beautiful human thing that Lupita Nyong'o doesn't judge him for it at all. She touches his heart. She realizes he's having like a panic attack, and she realizes he needs this emotional support. And not only that, if she doesn't give it to him, they'll both die. She doesn't want him to die. She's not going to sacrifice him to survive, again, because she knows she's going to die. But I just love that humanity that comes out of her, which she reveals later her father had the same disease that she has now, which kind of tells you perhaps she was with her father and he would have panic attacks and be afraid of dying, and there's all these kinds of things that come up with that reveal later that her father had the same disease, whatever it may be. I just found that really touching. I thought, wow, in an age where people just seem so confused these days, and even I feel lost with myself I think everyone's kind of, and especially in an age where robots are going to replace all of us, there's that hesitant feeling in the air of we're in the middle of World War III. AI robots are going to replace all of us and all of our jobs. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? You know what I mean? And here we are, and the movie is kind of not reflecting that, but when you have this overwhelming post-apocalyptic situation and nobody really knows what to do, everyone's waiting for some direction or some hope, and Lupita Nyong'o's past hope. She knows she's gonna die, and all she wants is to go get some pizza, the same pizza she would get with her dad before she dies. And that really hits home for me. You know what I mean? I mean, my father has been in car accidents and all kinds of things, and my mother got breast cancer, and thankfully is in a, I guess you would call it remission right now. I'm thankful for this so deeply. But having been through those things, you know, those things are not light things to me when movies use them. When movies use them, it really deeply triggers me when they just kind of throw it away and it's not that important and it's just something that's in the character's background. But it's like, you know, that's a real sensitive topic for people who've been through that. You shouldn't just be throwing that around like, oh, you know, I broke my arm once. Oh, I got a paper cut. You know what I mean? It's really not. Yeah, that kind of stuff is important. And that's why, again, I appreciate the movies, because when you have those life-threatening scenarios happening to you, it does change you. I was a very, very different person before my mom got cancer. I had a very short temper. I was passionate about film. I was making things, but I was definitely driving people crazy with too many opinions. I was definitely passionate about filmmaking, but I was also driving everybody nuts because, you know, an entire room would have one opinion and I would see a situation and I would have the opposite opinion. And not only that, I just really had no temperament for bullshit. If I felt like someone was saying something that wasn't true or wasn't ultimately helping them or the group they were in, I would say it. And a lot of people would take this the other way and go give me some kind of bad reputation like I was trying to ruin their lives. I was just trying to help them. But, that being said, I had a temperament and an attitude that definitely came off wrong. You know what I mean? So it didn't matter that I was trying to help them. How I came off was too much. And when my mom got cancer, it really made me actually totally re-evaluate my entire set of values. I used to think filmmaking, my dream, this is the most important thing, this is what I need to focus on. And then my mom got cancer and I was like, you know what, I could never make a movie again. If my mom was healthy, I would be happy. You know what I mean? And then at the same time, my older sister had a kid, and she and her boyfriend of the time had they were working. They both had jobs. They were trying to make ends meet, and so me and my parents were trying to help her with her son. Meanwhile, all of my friends of the time, they were all still in that committed mindset, that very young person, ambitious mindset. And I could distinctly tell, like, I was recognizing my behaviors because there's this new life coming into. I can't act the same anymore. I have to look out for this new life. I would be going to work and then taking care of this kid and then taking my mom to the hospital, and my entire life perspective changed when all of a sudden you realize death has a gun to your mother's head, and you can do whatever you can to stop it, or you can, you know, well, to me, that's the only answer. I'll do whatever I can to knock that gun out of death's hand. Finally, I understand Batman. I realize this is quite a long tangent, but this is why I do react certain ways to movies and shows when they tackle things that I feel, if this was happening to you in real life, none of this shit happening in the movie would matter to you. You know what I mean? And I think movies that do that fake thing, that just gloss over cancer and gloss over these things, movies and shows that do that, to me, indicate, okay, you as a person clearly have that ambition, and maybe you have dealt with things in your life that were difficult, but you're not channeling that. You're just trying to tell your story and put in whatever tinker toy pieces make it work. But you don't have the life experience to realize that that's not really real. That's not appropriate. But I felt so distinctly with this movie when everything that Lupita Nyong'o was going through, when she said her father went through it too, I was like, okay, now I completely understand why you want that pizza so badly. Not only are you dying, but you're also still kind of in grief. You know, you're still missing your dad, and also you're going through what he went through, so it's double painful for you, because you're just remembering everything you go through reminds you of what your dad went through and trying to help him survive. And all you want is just that slice of pizza that you both enjoyed before you die. And so I think it's a wonderful thing that she could find her humanity with this guy. He's supposed to be the man, right? Society tells you the man is supposed to be the alpha. He's supposed to be the protector. But you know what? That's not how people are. Good morning, fucking Earth. That's not how people are. Yes, if you are a man, you should be a protector, and you should put your fears behind you and take care of situations. But sometimes we fail, and I have definitely failed and given into cowardice, especially in my younger days. And then, to me, you know, people don't know how to deal with that when you have this expectation of how you're supposed to act, and then you don't act that way. Now suddenly you're less of a person. But these are just expectations that are put on us. We are all people. You know what I mean? And I've definitely learned that, look, we all come the way we come, and you just gotta, you can just stomach what you can stomach, and if you can't stomach it, just don't be around that person. It's that simple. You don't need to try and change people. If you think you can help a person, that's fine, but you don't need to try to change people. Just let people be. I think that's the most beautiful thing between Lupita Nyong'o and Joseph Quinn, is that we have the man who's scared and the woman who's not scared because she already knows she's going to die. And I love that when he's having a panic attack, she gives him strength. And then when she gives him that strength, together they carry forward. That, I thought, that's powerful. It's unspoken, it's visual, but again, to me, visual storytelling doesn't mean your eyes literally need to see it. It means you could tell it to a blind person, and they'll understand what's happening. It's like, oh, the dude was about to have a panic attack. Oh, really? And then what happened? Oh, and then she could tell and grabbed his chest and like rubbed him a little bit and calmed him down, and together they pushed through. Ah, no way. Well, that's touching. Literally. You know what I mean? I'm sorry, blind people. I know you don't do that. But, you know. But, you know, again, based on my life experiences, I think there's so many times going through all that stuff that I was going through that I wished I had someone who could give me that strength, and I just didn't. I kept having to be that for the people around me, even though they knew what I was going through. And that is what made me step away from an entire group of, I don't call them friends anymore. They're not friends to me. They're people who needed me even though they knew what I was going through. Uh, that's how I feel anyway. But to me that's fine. It's in the past. To me, the family has stuck together, and that's the most beautiful and important thing. But again, time in terms of my personal life, I'm in a time of peace. So now I realize, man, I want to get back to the dream. If as long as everyone's okay, I want to get back to my dream. And this podcast thing was just sort of a way for me to still be in love with film and tell people what I've learned, and also have a way of reminding myself if I ever forget, hey, isn't there some analysis? Isn't there something that a filmmaker did that mattered to you? So I can go back and watch it, go, oh, right, Guillermo del Toro did this for this reason. This is why I'm making movies, or this is the solution to my problem making this situation. I love movies. I fucking love movies. And A Quiet Place, day one, when we reach the ending, and she sacrifices herself for Joseph Quinn to get away with her cat. And not only that, I didn't realize, it's a reveal at the end of the movie, she's wearing this yellow coat. And the yellow coat, which is way too big for her, and makes her look like an old, less than sturdy man. It reveals that, oh, this coat belonged to her dad, and she puts it around Joseph Quinn, meaning, in a way, her dad gets to live a little bit longer. Her cat gets to live a little bit longer because she found a friend in this world, and the friend can carry those things to a safe place. And I just thought, that was really touching. Because it would have been lame, because I love the way they did it. Remember, we're in the spoiler-free section. I love the way they did it. Earlier it's established Joseph picks up and that's not his name in the movie, I don't care, it's Eric, but whatever. Earlier in the movie, they're getting chased, and he starts throwing rocks at cars to set off alarms. And she uses the same trick to make sure he can get on a boat that's getting out of there. And it would have been a lamer movie if the monsters killed her as he got onto the boat. Because, we've already seen that. Other movies have done that. But I thought it was just so beautiful and awesome that it doesn't fully work, and he still makes a sound, and he still has to run for his life to the boat. And then I think it would have been really cool if at least one monster made the leap and he had one last struggle, but he certainly would have died if the monster had jumped after him. It would have been awesome if there was just one last... but then, whatever. I think it would have been a lamer ending if she died there. That's the I Am Legend ending. I think it's so beautiful that because of that, she gets to walk away and enjoy her city one more time. And in the past year, I've moved away from San Francisco. Actually, I moved away from San Francisco a while ago. But I was always close to it, and I was always visiting it as often as I could. But now that I've been away from my family for a year, my city for a whole year, and my city, unfortunately, San Francisco, has become the zombie apocalypse. You politicians and all you criminals, you're all criminals. Every last one of you. Every last one of you so-called Democrats, I think, are just fucking criminals. Because for all your social woes that you claim to care about, the most important social woe is whether we can walk in the fucking street safely or not. Whether we have rent control. Whether we can actually survive in a fundamental way. That is the most important thing. That is what you should look out for first. And you guys have dropped the ball horrendously. So anyone standing on the blue, saying that any of these people give a shit about you, you know what? It's as phony as the comic books that you think are ridiculous. But anyway, I think it's so beautiful that, because again, I miss San Francisco, and What's beautiful is it's like when she's walking around New York. I don't know if it's actually New York. At the very last shot of the movie, and she says, "Ah, you can hear all the beautiful sounds the city makes when it's quiet." And that made me think of the same thing. I remember when I was a teenager, I could still walk safely around the majority of the city in the middle of the night, and the way the wind blew, the way the sounds hit off the buildings, and through under the cars and under the trolleys, and there was something so special when you're a city person. It is its own experience. I mean, I can't speak for people who don't live in cities or whatever. I don't know, what's out there for you guys, but even if you get the stars, we could see the stars sometimes. Go to Twin Peaks, but I just connected so much with Lupita Nyong'o, especially in the last 30 minutes of the movie, when her character is basically revealed enough to us what's been going on with her, why she wants the pizza, and how she feels about the city. Just that one scene when they had gotten through the rain and they went to her apartment, and she dreams of we just see the window and the city's out of focus, but she dreams of the city on a normal day, and then a monster comes and wakes her up. But I just thought, to me that reflected so personally my own experiences of city life. Even though it's a different city, I just related to that so much. So, but those are my favorite spoiler moments at the very least. I love that the female character gives strength to the male character, and none of it in a macho kind of way. And it's not just feminine, but it's just human. It's like I said, we all have these expectations when we grow up and we're young. We get it from movies, we get it from society, we get it from our own circle. Everyone, whatever our environment is, gives us expectations of what the world is supposed to be like, what we are supposed to be like as people. And yes, if you're in a situation where someone should protect you, someone should protect you. You know what I mean? But at the same time, you should be able and willing to protect yourself and get out of situations. And also remember that everyone's human and people aren't perfect. And I really like how, again, without expectation, without disappointment, Lupita Nyong'o respects Joseph Quinn's fear and helps give him strength to go further. And I don't, I'm sure there will some people who will have race comments and all that. And I know I've talked too much about race on my thing, but for me, it was always just to say, not that there isn't disparity, but that disparity didn't stop a good amount of us from succeeding. You know what I mean? I think at the end of the day, it's up to you to push past whatever it is that holds you back. You know what I mean? Are other people holding you back, or are you holding you back because of how you feel about yourself? And if it's you, then you got to recognize that it's you. That's number one. And if it's not you, then I'm sorry. But that's all I really have. That's all I have to say about race. It's just like, hey, I'm not saying that it doesn't occur, but I think we do need to acknowledge that it hasn't stopped so many people from going after what they want. You know what I mean? And then it hasn't stopped them from succeeding. And that should be the inspiration for all of us to say, well, hey, then, if it didn't stop them from succeeding, then it's not going to stop me. You know what I mean? And I'm not going to let it stop me. I think that's the most important thing. I'm many races, and that's all I got to say. So I'm sure that I'm only saying this because I'm sure someone will say the black person sacrificed herself for the white person. But I think it's so much more than that. I think if the roles were reversed, and Lupita Nyong'o played the weak woman who was just, I'm having a panic attack, and let me touch your chest and make you feel better because I'm the man. I think that would come off as so cheesy, so corny, so been done before. That's not Raiders of the Lost, Temple of Doom. You know, and we've seen Temple of Doom. We've seen Sam Raimi's movies where the women scream and need the man's help. You know what I mean? And and I'm not saying, again, should men be protectors? Of course. And should all this, yeah, all the shoulda, woulda, couldas in the fucking world doesn't mean that the world is not more colorful than even the colors on our skin. That you can be a man and be afraid, and it's understandable. You know, especially if you're in an extreme circumstance, it's understandable that you might be caught in a moment. And in this guy's case, he was traumatically affected by water because he thought he was going to drown. And the thing that was triggering him, that was giving him panic attacks, was the water. So you can kind of tie it all together. Like, no, he's not just generically panicking. He's panicking because of a specific situation. But again, no judgment from Lupita Nyong'o, because she's been through it, and the humanity of that, I think, is what we should come out of this movie appreciating. Is that, and again, I think, if it was a man, it would be I Am Legend all over again, because I Am Legend, Will Smith saves was it Alice Bragg? I forget her name. Great actress, but you know what I mean? I think it's so beautiful that it's not necessarily because it's a woman, but because Lupita Nyong'o just does such a fantastic job of carrying the weight of the character. And yeah, it's just, to me, it's like, is it a great role? Yeah, but I also think she made it such a great role by having just such, I don't know, the way she delivered it, I really felt it was lived. It really felt like she had lived her life the way she says she had. Because I related to all the pings, all the same pings of, oh yeah, going through similar situations. But the humanity of it, and again, self-reflective entirely, her appreciation of her city at the very end of the movie. It's like, you know, I think that's kind of, I have many ways I'm afraid of dying, but I think, you know, one of the ways, not that I want to be killed by a monster, but, you know, it's like, if you find some peace and you're in your favorite place of the world and you're going to die anyway, you know, I think it's a beautiful thing for her to be walking around the place that to her is heaven. It's just her neighborhood where she grew up, hearing the sounds she heard. And I just think, man, she got the best role. You know what I mean? Like, it speaks a lot about her character. It speaks a lot about humanity. And really, to me, like I said, she starts the movie with so much baggage. And all the awful things that happen in the movie wear her down to exactly, well, what does matter to you? And that's where her humanity is rediscovered. Because not only, I mean, she doesn't try to save herself, but she tries to save her cat. Like, her cat is a part of her. Her cat is her family. You know what I mean? As ridiculous as it may seem. But that she chooses to spend her last moments in the place that she loved the most, the place she called home. Knowing has a spoiler alerts for knowing. Knowing has that similar wonderful ending, but in that case, it was Nicolas Cage coming back to his father and his mother, who he was estranged from. But he comes back to home, right? And so we haven't seen that exact ending in a while, but I really love this version of that, where in this version, there's no way you're coming back to anybody. And in her case, her family had already gone. But just to end it that way, I just thought was really moving and powerful. I was really affected by it. And yeah, of course the action was great, but again, what I respond to character story development? Do the actors feel like they belong in the roles they belong in? I really thought everyone was great. And another thing, going to Joseph Quinn, one of my favorite lines from him is, again, when they go to the apartment, or and maybe it was earlier than that, but he talks about how he was studying to be a lawyer, and that was his dream, and now it's all gone. And I just thought, wow, you know what I mean? Again, another self-reflective moment of, again, I thought filmmaking was the most important thing to me, and at the same time I was making the first short film I ever directed that won awards. And not because I don't think I was a quality filmmaker beforehand. I'd made documentaries. I just never submitted anything I made to festivals before. But this one, 007, I only need one. Yeah. So even I had the wonderful experience of making a short, directing something with a crew of family and friends, but I also had the life-altering experience of family member, my mom with cancer, my sister with a son, needing support, and taking care of a baby, and for me, because I had worked freelance for 10 years, I eventually had to get a real job, so getting a real job for the first time. All these experiences built up to making me a little bit tougher of a guy, but also realizing, what's important. And part of my podcast, the reason why I know I talk about technical stuff, and it might not seem like the most interesting most of the time. This is more of an emotional episode, but the reason I do is because I think I've seen enough times amongst friends, classmates, fellow storytellers, there's so many misconceptions amongst storytellers, especially these young people today. There's so many misconceptions about what matters in a movie. And I feel like I studied from my masters, Guillermo del Toro, Christopher Nolan, some of Danny Boyle's work, and the most important thing is I watch their commentaries. I don't just watch the movie and sit there with my opinion and think my opinion matters. I watch the commentary. I watch the interview. What the fuck were they thinking when they made that? And although I don't have any of that to talk about for this particular podcast, what I find most important for me is that I left this movie emotionally affected. I related to what the characters were going through. And I think that's what movies are really all about. You know what I mean? I think, again, I always bring up Spider-Man or Star Wars, but, what is Spider-Man going through? He's bullied, he's ostracized, he's mistreated by society, and it makes him a selfish person. And the moment he becomes selfish, the consequence is that his uncle dies. And then he realizes being selfish is no good. Other people being selfish made him feel bad, and then he became selfish, and then he had much higher consequences than just making someone feel bad. His uncle died. Or you look at Star Wars, and it's really a family drama about an abusive father who's abusing his children and their friends. And not only that, before they were even born, he had strangled his mother. He had strangled the mother of his children while they were still in her womb. He had ostracized himself from his own friends because of his misconceptions and because he couldn't let go of things. You look at these stories, the reason they have any resonance at all is because they're about people and the mistakes that people make when they're passionate about something or when they won't listen. There's the character, and whatever the lesson the character goes through is the theme of the story. And so that's what matters. If you're a storyteller, that's what matters. The theme of your story. What's the story about? that theme is why your character behaves the way they do, because at the end the audience has to have that resonant experience of, oh, okay, I shouldn't judge people. You know what I mean? I think that's what, when you watch American History X, talk about racism, that movie starts off with Edward Norton being the most despicable, awful human being possible, where he literally skull stomps another man because he's black. And throughout the story, spoilers for American History X. Spoilers for American History X. Throughout the story, you see his younger brother, played by Edward Furlong, is becoming influenced by this very behavior, even though he's in prison. Even though Edward Norton's character is in prison for doing the same thing. And he's going the same way. He's going to go the same exact way as his brother. And over the course of the story, while in prison, the only person who really looks out and cares about Edward Norton are the other black characters. He makes a black friend in prison, and that guy looks out for him and keeps the black gang from doing anything to him. And his principal, who's been through watching all this happen in his own life, both the racism and seeing the consequences of all the violence. And it's, that perspective that makes, by the end of the movie, Edward Norton realize, shit, all this judgment and all this hate and all this violence didn't actually solve any of my problems, which is what the principal is there to teach him. And that's powerful. It's really about respecting humanity. You look at Terminator, and also he needs to save his younger brother. He needs to get his younger brother out of this life before the same thing happens to him. And you look at Terminator 2. Even though, yes, a future robot comes back and we repeat the plot of but it's not the same plot or story or even the same meaning of the first movie. You look at Terminator 2, and it's about a mother who is in a crazy hospital. She's estranged from her son. All her son wants, all young Edward Furlong wants, is for her mom to acknowledge him and to love him and to care about him as a mother. But she's so psychotically obsessed with him being a future leader that she can't even almost see him as a son. She just sees him as the object that she must protect. And it takes the entire movie of watching the Terminator that had tried to kill her before, now reprogrammed, watching him being a almost perfect dad and realizing, oh shit, this Terminator's a better parent than I am. Well, I better go kill Miles Dyson. And we see how that goes. But by the end of the movie, she finally hugs him and loves him. Spoilers for Terminator 2. All these movies are about humanity. They're all about us learning something about ourselves or about sort of the way people treat each other. And the point is that we should, as humanity, break down these barriers between us. Whether it's judgment, whether it's, oh, they don't see my value, Anakin Skywalker. Okay, just, let it go. It doesn't mean that you don't have value, but, figure something out. Your violence is not going to change their opinion or solve the situation. It's only going to make things worse. Hating each other because of the color of our skin, it's not going to do anything for you, even though you think it will. In the short term, it might seem like it does, but it doesn't really do anything for you. Being selfish and greedy, and because that's how other people were toward you, it's not going to solve your problems. It's going to add to your problems. All of these stories have this through line that humanity is more complicated than the expectations we have about ourselves and about other people. And humanity, most importantly, is just about playing the ball where it lies and respecting our differences and trying to help each other. There's a beautiful thing when I was still watching Fear the Walking Dead. Season 4 of Fear the Walking Dead, I think, is the best zombie show ever by itself. I think within that season we have Morgan and all the characters from the show that had already existed because Morgan was part of The Walking Dead. But I think the most beautiful thing when it comes to Fear the Walking Dead is that it's all about how each one of us has to help the other if we all want to survive. And that's something that I forget his name. He was on Galaxy Quest. He was fantastic. But in real life, he was in a situation that got him in a wheelchair, and they have him in the wheelchair on the show, and it comes up both on the show Fear the Walking Dead season 4 and on The Talking Dead when he's being interviewed by Chris Hardwick about it. And the thing is, the message of that particular season and the whole message that he had himself, it's like, I didn't survive on my own. People helped me. You know what I mean? And even Arnold Schwarzenegger, you know, with his whole reemergence with his new book and really pushing society to working out, he scoffs at people calling him a self-made man. He's like, I didn't do this myself. When I was bodybuilding and I was broke, other bodybuilders would give me food. And when I was trying to act, other people would give me tips and teach me how to be better. And you know what I mean? It's just the only way any of us gets anywhere is because we all have to help each other. You know what I mean? This is a philosophy I've always had, that helping other people is an important thing. Not that I've helped everyone I've crossed, but I have tried to be a helpful person in my life. And what I think is so beautiful about, to bring this all back, A Quiet Place Day 1, it's all about that same humanity, and it's all about how, you know, for us to make it, we have to stick together. That doesn't mean we don't sometimes go on a solo adventure or something like that where we kind of have to work ourselves out a little bit. But ultimately, as a group, as a society, we survive together by holding each other together. So I hope, you know, I know that we're in a time where it seems like you need to stand on a party line, and it seems like you need to shout and be the greatest social justice warrior of all time. But if you could just calm the fuck down for 5 minutes, step back from your expectations and your ideals and all this noise, it's just noise, and you really just talk to the person that you think is your enemy. They're probably not really your enemy. You know what I mean? And granted, there's still people who will be, you know, creepers and psychos and take advantage of you, and you got to watch out for that. But I think, you know, all this nonsense, all this competition, it is the very thing that divides us, not that keeps us together. You know, the very fact that we have a weight crisis during a time when so much of the country is out of work and struggling to pay the bills because our food isn't made out of real food. I mean, all you people lobbying and making money, what the fuck is wrong with you? What the fuck is wrong with you? You gotta be some kind of psycho-sociopath who does not give a shit about other people to be doing this. And if you want to be some kind of social justice warrior, it's okay to defend the theys and thems and all that. But how about, more importantly, find the real issues that are killing people in the streets and work on that. How about that? Okay? You know what I mean? but be smart. Do your homework. Don't just start a shouting match against someone because of what you heard in your classroom. You know what I mean? Or what your friend told you because of this book. Really, be your own thinker. Think for yourself and find the best path. And typically the best path, it shouldn't be about standing on top of someone. It should be about having peace with other people. Making peace with other people so that we can all get along. Because one way or another, we're all here with all our different opinions and values and whatever. We're all here. You know, we got one earth and one atmosphere as long as we have it to have the things we want. And all the better for us to learn and not judge and to be sympathetic, be compassionate, be helpful. I'm sure even some of you psycho-sociopaths out there understand that. Even if you don't have the emotional driving need to respond to that understanding. But if you can understand it logically, then you are capable of being that way. So that being said, I loved A Quiet Place Day One. It had a great feeling and message of humanity, and really reminded me of San Francisco. So anyway, all tangents aside, I love the movie. Thanks for listening to my rant. Who knows? I'm just a crazy guy from San Francisco. This is how people from San Francisco talk, okay? It's just a bunch of crazy people going on and on and on about how things used to be or how things should be. All the while walking their dogs and enjoying graffiti art. At least that's the way it was. Now, again, now it's Zombieland. Rest in peace, San Francisco. Great job, politicians. You guys really, I don't know. I don't know what you're doing because I don't watch the news anyway. Yeah, great job. Anyway, love the movie. If you liked it too, or if anything, hey, let me know if you know something about how the movie was made, or if you really liked some of the same spoiler scenes. Let me know what your favorite scene was. I'm down to have a talk about it, and tell me what you liked about the movie. Do you like making movies too? Is there something about the movie you feel is a good lesson that I probably should have brought up on this podcast? Like, hey, did you notice this shot or this technique? Or hey, that's cool. Typically, this show is really for fellow storytellers, even though I pretend that it's a normal movie review podcast. Excuse me. But yeah, I'm just open to discussion in the comments. Let me know what your favorite scenes are, and should this be the end of my podcasting career? We shall find out. Anyway, aloha. Thanks for listening to me rant. And if you didn't, good job. Peace.